Hello, welcome to Astronautics for Exploit. This is Dr. Anyashola Ogundele. Space as a Service Ecosystem, a network of space companies providing shared access to space assets and services. The Space as a Service Ecosystem, a network of companies providing shared access to space assets and services such as satellites, launch services, ground infrastructure, and data on a subscription or usage basis is driven by the commercialization and privatization of space activities championed by the new space companies such as SpaceX, Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, and a host of others. The shift towards space as a service commenced with the new space movement and evolution, which focused on commercializing space and involving more diverse participants like commercial companies, startups, and academic institutions alongside governments. The development of cubesats and other small satellites, pioneered by companies like Planet Labs and Blue Canyon Technologies, acquired by Raytheon, made space-based services more feasible for a larger number of organizations. Companies such as Spread Global and Astro Digital transitioned from product-focused sales to service models, offering access to space data, satellite operations, and communication capabilities on an as-a-service basis. Components of space as a service ecosystem are infrastructure providers, spacecraft manufacturing, spacecraft operations, ground infrastructure, and a host of others. Space infrastructure includes shared satellites, constellation access, payload hosting, and complete satellite platforms that clients can use for their specific missions. Launch services providers offer integrated launch services, and these thereby allow clients to launch their payloads onto existing high-frequency missions. Ground segments ecosystem incorporates ground infrastructure for communication, commanding, and data reception. Software and data platforms providers offer access to satellite data and software for mission planning, tasking, and data processing. The focus points are as follows: Space as a Service Ecosystem and components of Space as a Service Ecosystem. Space as a Service Ecosystem. Space as a Service is a business model where customers rent access to space-based infrastructure, data, or services rather than owning them, and this mirrors the concept of software as a service model. Space as a Service ecosystem includes infrastructure providers such as satellite operators, service providers, data analytics, customers, and ground-based support, enabling flexible, scalable, and cost-effective use of space for various applications such as Earth observation, internet connectivity, and in-orbit services. Artist illustration of surrogate manufacturing is shown in this picture. Space as a Service ecosystem workings are as follows: access, not ownership. Instead of building and launching their own satellites, companies pay to access existing satellite constellations or space infrastructure, pay-as-you-go basis. Customers are billed based on their usage, similar to a utility service. The picture here illustrates space access, mobility, and logistics as a service. Managed infrastructure. Space as a Service ecosystem providers handle complex logistics, such as manufacturing, launching, operating satellites, managing ground stations, and providing necessary software infrastructure. APIs for operations. Customers often use application programming interfaces in order to control their payloads or tasks on the provider's constellation, giving them direct access and control over their specific services. Artist illustration of debris removal system is illustrated in this picture. Components of Space as a Service ecosystem are infrastructure providers, spacecraft manufacturing, spacecraft launch and operations, ground infrastructure, software and services, and data and analytics. Infrastructure provider. They are foundational to the space as a service ecosystem, enabling it by building, owning, and managing the physical and digital resources that other companies rent on the subscription or pay-per-use basis. SPaaS model, which mirrors terrestrial infrastructure as a service offerings like Amazon Web Services, democratizes access to space by significantly lowering the cost and complexity for users. NASA's mission to send the repair robot to geosynchronous orbit is illustrated in this picture. Key roles of infrastructure providers are as follows. Orbital assets. These providers own and operate constellations of satellites, including those with software-defined radios and miniature sensors, which can be shared by multiple customers. This gives clients access to space without having to build and launch their own costly satellites. Ground station networks providers build and operate a global network of ground stations to communicate with and downlink data from their satellite constellations. They then offer these ground stations as a service, allowing clients to access the network on demand. The picture here illustrates ARTI's concept of a satellite refueling service. Launch platforms. Infrastructure providers manage partnerships and schedules with launch companies to provide clients with a reliable and flexible path to orbit. They help to reduce risk by bypassing the logistical complexities of launch for their customers. Space transportation ecosystem is illustrated in this picture. Spacecraft manufacturing is another component of space as a service ecosystem. Spacecraft manufacturing component of space as a service involves providing access to satellite manufacturing capabilities on a flexible pay-per-use model rather than requiring customers to own and operate their own infrastructure. This business model reduces high cost, technical expertise, and operational complexity traditionally associated with building and launching spacecraft. The picture here illustrates SpaceX as a service. Different types of the two primary forms of spacecraft manufacturing as follows. On-demand manufacturing and operations, where a provider offers a full-service solution that includes designing, manufacturing, launching, and operating a spacecraft or a constellation of satellites on behalf of a customer. Spirit Global follows this model. In space manufacturing, in the future, this will involve fabricating and assembling spacecraft components directly in orbit. This capability will reduce the need to launch fully formed bulky structures. An orbit service market as a service is illustrated in this picture. Spacecraft launch is another important component of space as a service ecosystem, and the key aspects are as follows. Access to launch vehicles. Space as a service providers offer access to a range of launch vehicles, from small satellite launchers to larger rockets, which are capable of deploying various types of payloads. This enables customers to select a launch solution tailored to their specific needs. Integrated launch services. The service typically includes not only the physical launch, but also integrated services such as payload integration, mission planning, regulatory compliance, and post-launch support. MOOC's development of in-space servicing, assembling and manufacturing is illustrated in this picture. Flexibility and scalability. Space as a service emphasizes flexibility and thereby allow customers to book launches as needed. Reduction in barriers to entry. By offering launch capability as a service, Space as a service lowers the barrier to entry for companies and organizations looking to deploy spacecraft, fostering innovation and democratizing access to space. MOOC's development of in-space servicing, assembling, and manufacturing is illustrated in this picture. Ground infrastructure, antenna network, ground station as a service providers operate a global network of large parabolic antennas in order to establish communication links with satellites. The location and size of these ground stations are crucial for tracking satellites in various orbits, including low Earth orbit, medium Earth orbit, and geostationary Earth orbit. Mission control centers are the physical and operational hubs where space missions are managed and controlled. Ground station as a service abstracts this infrastructure, allowing satellite operators to send commands and receive telemetric data from remote locations via an intuitive user interface. Space refueling service in space is illustrated in this picture. Core software and services, platform as a service. In the space context, a platform as a service offers a framework for customers to develop, operate, and manage their payloads, either physical or software defined, using an existing satellite constellation. Data as a service, customers can purchase data collected by a provider's satellites for a specific purpose. Artist concept illustrating satellite servicing system is illustrated in this picture. Data and analytics. Data collection providers use their constellations of satellites equipped with specialized sensors in order to gather data from Earth and space. This can include high-resolution optical imagery, radio frequency data, weather data, and signals intelligence. Data processing and storage. Enormous volume of raw data from space is managed using robust cloud computing and big data technologies. Space Talks as a service is illustrated in this picture. Advanced analytics, AI and machine learning algorithms are applied to the processed data in order to extract meaningful insights. And for the data delivery and visualization, the final analyzed data is delivered to customers through a cloud-based platforms, which often include visualization tools. Artist context illustrating drag cell to the orbit satellite services is illustrated in this picture. For more information, contact Astronautics for Exploit. You've been watching and listening to Space as a Service Ecosystem, a network of space companies providing shared access to space assets and services by Dr. Ayenshola Ogundele, with the focus point Space as a Service Ecosystem and component of Space as a Service Ecosystem. Thank you for your attention.